Welcome to the 97 Republic YouTube channel, where I react to UFC news and live events. So I kindly ask that you hit the like button and the subscribe button, as that will really help this channel grow. And to ensure that you don't skip a beat, feel free to click the notification bell. That way you can guarantee that you don't miss any of the action. I really hope you enjoy this. UFC Fight Night, Moreno versus Erceg. Visible excitement that you would see from this face. Due to the fact that this card, a lot of emphasis is put on the flyweight and bantamweight division, and do enjoy watching the flyweight division. Now, if we're being transparent, obviously lacks power. Yeah, no doubt about it. But what it makes up for with technicality, with speed, with pressure, with endurance, it is insane to watch. And come to think of it, don't really see a lot of brawlers within the flyweight division due to the fact that they are so technical, and due to the fact that it is difficult to knock out a flyweight due to the lack of power. So then you would just basically see guys being extremely technical. If you look at Demetrius Johnsons of the world, if you look at the Henry Cejudos of the world when he was fighting at 125, the only brawler that I could actually think of is Davison Figueiredo when he was at flyweight. And even in saying that, Davison is extremely technical, but he had power in those hands. But just genuinely enjoy it. It's like watching a flyweight fight. It feels like I'm watching two fights take place at once. And that is the speed at which it is going, and I'm excited. And everything you could ask for pertaining to a main card, this fits the bill due to the fact that you have a former champion in Brandon Moreno in the main event, taking on Steve Erceg, a former #1 contender. Brandon Moreno, who once upon a time drew against Davison Figueiredo, then went on in the rematch, beat Davison Figueiredo, then lost to Davison Figueiredo, beat Kai Kara of France, then beat Davison Figueiredo once again, and we thought that this would be the reign of Brandon Moreno. Now that play on words was not intended at all, but then entered Alexandre Pantoja and basically just dominated. Where Moreno lost to Pantoja once again in his career, losing the belt, and went on to lose against Brandon Moreno. Might have thought that this whole Brandon Moreno thing is over, bounced back against Amir Albazi. Now he's fighting Steve Erceg, who is somewhat still experienced within the UFC. He's had 5 fights within the UFC, already fought for a belt. Ended up losing in a fight which, honestly speaking, as a Pantoja fan, felt like Steve Erceg could have won that fight easily. Well, I'm saying easily. But had he had better fight IQ, had he been more experienced within the UFC, I think he could have won that fight. But then losing to Pantoja, got knocked out by Kai Kara of France in Australia, in his own country. Now he seems to bounce back in this fight against Brandon Moreno. It is, fireworks are gonna fly. And then in the co-main event, where we have Drew Dober, Red Rover Drew Dober, taking on Manuel Torres. Goes without saying, massive Drew Dober fan. Just to shine some perspective on Drew Dober's career, the phrase "live by the sword and get off by it," Drew Dober is the epitome of that phrase. In Drew Dober's last 11 fights within the UFC, he has had 7 performance bonuses. 7. That is Justin Gaethje level performance bonuses. Due to the fact that even if Drew loses, he loses spectacularly, and I can respect that. Taking on Manuel Torres, who is also a knockout artist, likes to stand and swing. Collision course. That's going to take place in the co-main event. And then we have Kelvin Gastelum in the middleweight division taking on Joe Pfeiffer. Joe Pfeiffer, who has a lot of power. Kelvin Gastelum, who seems to be, now this is not a word, unknockoutable, but it definitely should put that into the dictionary. once again, well, an interesting matchup. Joe Pfeiffer with his power, Kelvin Gastelum with his durability. Which one will give? It's going to be insane. And then, with regards to the bantamweight division, Raul Rosas Jr., the youngster, taking on Vince Morales in what would be an exciting fight. We have David Martinez making his debut inside of the UFC, still a somewhat young and upcoming fighter making his debut. Looked really good on Dana White's Contender Series. Looks really promising making his debut. And then also, we have Ronaldo Rodriguez is taking on Kevin Boyas in the flyweight division in a fight where both men's respective UFC careers are polar opposites of one another. Where Ronaldo Rodriguez ended up fighting on Dana White's Contender Series, ended up losing, but still received the UFC contract, and in his first two fights within the UFC, ended up winning both of them. Fighting a guy in Kevin Boyas who went on to win on Dana White's Contender Series, received the UFC contract, but then ended up losing his first two fights. So, with regards to their respective careers, literally the opposite of one another. An interesting fight to say the least. Both men being really young, with Ronaldo being 25 years old, with Kevin Boas being 27 years old. An interesting fight to say the least. Really excited to see how that plays out. But everything you could ask for on a main card. Brandon Moreno, the former champion, Steve Erceg, the former #1 contender. Is Brandon Moreno still capable of being a perennial top flyweight within the UFC? Is he still able to be on that level with regards to his skill set? Fighting a guy in Steve Erceg, who, as I previously mentioned, came really close to beating Alexandre Pantoja, but then suffered a devastating loss in his home country in Australia against Kai Kara France, a devastating first round knockout loss. So definitely in dire need of getting a win, getting back on the win column and solidifying himself as being a top flyweight, and potentially in the future rematching Alexandre Pantoja if he's still the champion. And then with regards to entertainment value, Drew Dober is basically a synonym that you could use with regards to entertainment value. It is a synonym of entertainment value. The guy is cinematic. In his last fight, we saw him do his best Red King impression against Gene Silva in a fight where he lost via TKO, via doctor stoppage, due to the fact that it looked like he was wearing a mask. And his face was red, to say the least. Against Manuel Torres, also coming off of a loss, losing against Ignacio Bahamondes, who's also a devastating striker, who ended up beating Jalen Turner just a couple of weeks ago. So it's not like he lost to a bum. It's going to be entertaining. But if you said that either performance or fight of the night is coming out of that fight, no style points in saying that. And then Kelvin Gastelum, an experienced vet who has seen it all, who has fought basically everyone you can fight within a division, fought the killers of a division, taking on Joe Pfeiffer, who is really tough. Yeah, Joe Pfeiffer, who has a lot of power. And then with regards to youngsters already trying to further establish themselves within the UFC, where Raul Rosas has already made his name inside of the UFC, being as young as he is, dominating, and then ended up losing. That's part of the game, but then coming back, winning his fight, now scheduled to fight Vince Morales, who is a really good bantamweight. We have Raul Rosas, the youngster. We have David Martinez, the youngster. Well, I'm saying youngsters, I think he's 27. That's still relatively young. And then obviously we have Ronaldo Rodriguez taking on Kevin Boas, where one's 25 years old, the other one's 27. So a lot of guys that have the potential of putting some hype behind their name, establishing themselves inside of the UFC. And it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see young guys get the opportunity to actually fight on the main card, because obviously the main card just draws a lot more attention to itself rather than the prelims. And knowing that it's flyweights and it's bantamweights, you know it's going to be exciting. you know that you're probably going to see some things that you're not accustomed to seeing. You know that technically and with regards to speed, it's just going to be action packed for the entirety of the fight if it makes it to that point. So a lot to look forward to. There are a lot to be excited about. Let me know in the comment section, which fight are you most excited for? Is it the main event? Is it Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg? Is it the co-main event where Drew Dober is taking on Manuel Torres? Let me know in the comment section. Early prediction for fight of the night coming out of the main card. I would really appreciate that. Enjoy your day.